Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Ball and Breakfast podcast. This is Patrick along with Wayne, kicking off an edition covering baseball, basketball, football as usual. Some similar topics that we touched on last time, but just with a different take. We're going to kick it off with the MLB. We're now in the midst of free agency. Qualifying offers have been kind of resolved at this point, and now it's just a free-for-all to see who will sign where. We're going to go over the top 5 free agents listed, through Sports Illustrated, kind of where we see them going. And then we'll talk about the implications for the White Sox, what their plans are for this offseason. Then we'll also touch on the Kyrie Irving, never-ending situation over in Brooklyn, as well as NBA and NFL highlights, takeaways that we've seen over the last week or so. So sit back, relax. I'm going to kick over to Wayne here to kick it off with Aaron Judge and where he'll end up signing this year.
Yeah, thanks, Pat. I want to look at Aaron Judge and potential free agent destinations for him, or who I think he's going to be signing with. I also think he's going to re-sign with the Yankees. I think if he wants to be with a contender, and they've offered him, I think it's been kind of recorded Steinbrenner's saying, "Hey, you want to be the captain of the Yankees going forth?" I think that's going to be quite an honor. They're going to offer him a bunch of money, enough money, I think, for him. That's kind of market value, along with the Yankee captain. So it just seems like that's the best, I think, fit for him, is just to stay there. I know there's been talks about I think the second place team right now is the Giants, and it's I guess, but they're not always contenders. They always seem to be up and down, I think. So for me, I think it makes sense for him to stay with the Yankees going forth. They love him there. They really love him there. And I just think it's a great fit. His personality fits, the area. He's never too, the moment is never too big for him. So, I think he wants to bring a World Series toward the Yankees and be one of those people that are just heralded as a Yankee, for years to come. So that's I just think he's going to be a Yankee this at the end of this offseason.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm going Yankees too. He rejected a 7-year, $230 million deal to start the year. He wasn't coming off a 62 home run season. So, when he did make that declination, I think everybody was kind of like, whoa, this guy's really betting on himself, because, that's a deal north of $30 million a year. So going into this offseason, I mean, we're now probably looking at 7 or 8 years again. He's a year older now, but he's easily eclipsing, I think, $300 million at this point. Just depends on how many years folks really want to give him in this final contract of his. But I'm right with you. I was thinking Yankees and second place Giants, just because of his hometown and the fact that they have money to spend. Farhan Zaidi has mentioned that there is no cap, but they're just not going to go crazy. I think he's a pretty disciplined GM coming from the Rays and Dodgers, trees of executives. So they'll be smart, but that'd be the only enticing offer I see here. But, if you could be, an iconic Yankee, have your number retired, like you're saying, be the captain. Every year you're going to make the playoffs, or really have a close shot of getting one of those wild card berths. It's it almost comes down to over that lifespan of the deal, how much enjoyment will he have playing the game of baseball, and both teams are going to pay him. So it just comes down to a gut feel. And I think Aaron Judge, being with the Yankees long term just makes sense for both sides.
Yeah, I think that's a key thing. It's mutually beneficial. If there was some sort of I guess animosity between Judge and, I don't know, the Yankee faithful or upper management or whatever, then I could definitely see something where he would be like, yeah, I think there's maybe greener pastures, but it's hard for me to be like, what does he want? It seems like he wants to win. It seems he's wants to be in a place where people like him and enjoy him, and it just so happens he also had his best season ever. So I think it makes sense, for the Yankees to pay up for him, and keep this show going.
Yeah, it's just hard to see if he's to walk away, what's plan B for the Yankees? You could go the route of just gobbling up as many quality players you possibly can with the money you would have allocated to Judge. But that'll be just such a huge blow to that roster, that team, that fan base, everything. Not that I care, but yeah, I think the Yankees, if pressed, will probably overspend here and maybe even regret the amount of money they're committing to him year after year. But it's like you're kind of damned if you don't. So yeah, I guess that's the take for the first player.
Yeah, for sure. And then I guess next going on, I'm looking at Trea Turner in terms of the big free agents there. I kind of dabbled around. He's definitely has. I can see him in different areas and different scenarios for sure. I think he's probably one of the more diverse ones in that sense. So, of all the major free agents, but I'm picking this one because out of just the pure love and joy of the game, I would love to see him on this team. That would be the Mariners, actually. I think him and Julio Rodriguez on the top of the lineup there with like that, both that speed and power that they both have. I think that's awesome, and I think that really sets up the Mariners for the future. They have a lot of young talent, so that they're not spending too much money right now. So I think that if they are looking for an impactful player, like they kind of struggled more so on the offensive side of the ball this season, then I see that's where Trea Turner can be a very valuable asset for them going forth. They had a lot of magic, I think, happen in the postseason too, and just in the season in general. So, if I'm Trea Turner and I'm looking for, more that a team that I can make an impact on, be like a leader essentially, now, then that's where I'm looking at the Mariners as a potential destination. Washington State, no state income tax as well, so you're going to save a little bit more dollars there. So I definitely, for me, if I'm Trea Turner, I would love to see him in the Mariners uniform.
Yeah, that'd be an interesting fit. I mean, that offense would take another step forward. I mean, I think they had a great year last year, and like you're saying with Julio at the top, I mean, he's probably going to be a stud for a long time over there. So, they'd really start to generate some runs and kind of back up that incredible pitching staff they had. I'm going to go with the Phillies for Trea Turner. He's made a statement that he'd want to play on the East Coast. I think that, my first thought was, why wouldn't he just re-up with the Dodgers? But it seems like he's trying to make a push over to the East Coast. So I guess with that, what better way to, get back into it out in the NL East than to partner with Bryce Harper, having some time together on the Nationals. There's, no doubt, chemistry, continuity there as far as baseball goes. Maybe they're buddies. I'm sure they might be. But up the middle, for the Phillies has been kind of a weak spot since Jimmy Rollins left, Chase Utley. Last year they were tinkering around with Bryson Stott, Didi Gregorius, Gene Segura. Didn't have the best of years, but in general, I think he'd add a lot of stability to that, shortstop position up the middle spot. Even at leadoff, they had Kyle Schwarber kind of out of position there, hitting bombs from the number one spot. I mean, why not turn it over to Trea? Maybe have Schwarber bat 2 or Harper or whatever you decide to do. But, with them getting to the World Series coming up just a bit short, Wayne taking a nasty shot of Malort there, they need to redeem themselves. And I think they see that window as probably being right now. So I think they'd be willing to spend that extra money per season, to bring in a guy like Trea.
Yeah, I think that was actually my second choice for Trea Turner because of that Bryce Harper connection. And yeah, he just kind of fits right into that organization where in that lineup right now, I think Stott is their shortstop, not exactly a pretty good defense, but not exactly someone, that can take it to the next level for them with the bat. Like, I don't think he doesn't seem that he seems pretty limited in terms of his potential there. So that's something where I see like having a little bit more of that speedster, kind of typical leadoff hitter in Trea Turner. And yeah, like you were saying, with regards to moving like Schwarber a little bit downer in the lineup, I think could be great for them going forth. But yeah, I just really want to see him with the Mariners. I feel like he just fit in right well there. But I can definitely see him with the Phillies for sure.
Gotcha. How about another shortstop, Carlos Correa?
Oh, Carlos Correa. I mean, yeah, this whole shortstop carousel, it should be interesting, or it's going to be like basically musical chairs, I feel like, this offseason. But I have him. I'm going to go with the house on this. I think the house actually says the betting, like all the betting odds say the Cubs. So, it for me, it just makes sense. Like they kind of fits that personality vibe of like what Carlos Correa is. Like, he's kind of annoying, but at the same time, he's really, really talented, kind of like the Cubs in a way, like, great market, has this, folklore to it, but at the same time, they're pretty annoying too. So, yeah, I definitely see, like, it seems like a match made in heaven in terms of organization, how much money that they can give him, and him just kind of fitting right into there. So for me, I think I seen the Cubs are leaning towards the Cubs here.
Yeah, I went with the Cubs as well. I feel like, there have been rumors out there. I just feel like the Cubs are going to spend, an obscene amount of money this offseason just to kind of continue to, push towards whatever contention they think they're in. I don't think they have a window here, but, they have a good fan base. Obviously, they have deep pockets. They've shed some payroll over the last year or so, letting the World Series core go. So maybe this is a chance to reboot that. And I just feel like a guy like Carlos Correa is going to have a harder time on the open market than some of the other shortstops. So I feel like, the prime, let's call it 1 or 2, I would say it's Turner, maybe Bogarts, maybe Correa's in that conversation with Bogarts. But it's like, I think a team that's like on the cusp of winning it all isn't going to want to mess with the chemistry, isn't wanting to take that, that red pill and, give over that money to Correa. So I think, just come down to maybe a couple teams making the first moves on, maybe those top 2 guys, maybe top, 3 guys there. And then Correa will find his landing spot with, Chicago that won't have as much competition for him. But yeah, I mean, generally speaking, I think, that's a decent fit for him. He played for the Twins last year. He'd look perfect in a Cubs uniform for me because I just despise the guy. So like, just not having to deal with him, in our division is fine. If he wants to be a Northsider, even better. But yeah, I think that's probably the most likely spot I would see for Correa.
Yeah, no, it just makes sense, I think. So, yeah, it'd be interesting, like what other teams would be interested, or if he does join another team. I think, I just don't see him fitting in. I think like the Cardinals are one other team that was kind of swimming around. So, if there is like the Cubs being, maybe they go on the defensive more so with Correa. It's like we don't want him to see him on the Cardinals. Rather just sell a couple of seats here and there with them and just kind of take his exuberance of bat flips and stuff with them here. So.
Yeah, I heard the Dodgers are in the mix. I think the hard sell for them is to their fan base, and I think they're really concerned about that. That's why I kind of took them off the board. I actually think that Bogarts is a pretty good fit for the Dodgers if they decide to really spend on a shortstop replacement for Turner. But yeah, I just see that as being kind of just an odd fit just based on the history there. And I think the fan base would get over it. I think that most of us baseball fans watching the Astros win it all kind of got over it a little bit. So It's not to say never say never, but yeah, I just think there's a better fit elsewhere. And maybe the Twins too. Maybe the Twins, really roll up their sleeves and, if he doesn't get the offer he wants, maybe they enter into a similar deal they gave him last year.
Yeah, for sure. Just moving along. I think one starting pitcher that is on our radar here, Justin Verlander. I'll let you talk about you Pat. Who do you think Justin Verlander is going to be joining this offseason?
I'm going to go with the Dodgers. This is one where I don't think he has the same, sting allegiances, that maybe Correa did to the Astros, for the Dodgers. So I think from a fan base perspective, they just want to win baseball games. And I think, showing from the, divisional series, they just didn't have enough firepower, I think, at the top of the rotation. I think they always come out with a very deep staff that gets them through 162. In the same sense, they need to maybe bring over a little firepower on shorter term deals just to say, hey, when we get to the playoffs, we've got guys that are going to be intimidating when we stack, them in the first 3 games. And, with Kershaw kind of, moving into the latter half of his career, he's still, very, always puts up a good ERA, doesn't give you the innings, but, Urias, it's like he is good regular season. Have we seen him really excel in the postseason yet? It's hit or miss. It seems like season to season. And then, you had guys like Gonsolin and Anderson. Anderson obviously signed with the Angels today, but it's just there's a little bit of elite starting pitching that they're missing, when Scherzer signed with the Mets. So I think they steal Verlander from the Dodgers. He did everything he needs to do in Houston. I think Houston actually has 5 guys they could roll out to start the year with. I don't think they have to make that, excessive financial commitment again. So it just seems like a smart fit. And then, hey, Kate Upton gets to be in LA. So that seems like it would make sense too.
Yeah, no, I had that. I had LA and him going to the Dodgers. So it does make sense. But then I saw that they just sold their house. So in LA, and they bought a place in Florida. Now there's no teams in Florida that's, good necessarily, or that I think fit towards Verlander and kind of what he's seeking. But, I think he wants to stick to that time zone, that area a little bit. So I'm going to pick the Mets, actually. So I think that's my thinking on that is, hey, maybe they want to just stay on the East Coast a little bit more, and just a quick plane ride down to Florida, in their off seasons, basically, or Verlander's off season. So, I think that the Mets will be moving on from deGrom, who, we can definitely talk about him later. And I think that the Mets they're willing to make those investments. I think going forth, I think the Mets are, they really don't have too many pitchers kind of on contract this coming year. I know they just re-signed Diaz for the bullpen, but I think they just have like Scherzer and like maybe a handful of other pitchers going forth into this next season. So that's where I'm thinking, hey, the Mets will be calling up Verlander and Kate Upton and figuring out, hey, do you want to be on the East Coast more so? And hey, the Mets, we had a contending team this previous season. So, I think they would be thirsty for that veteran presence, I think, in their starting pitching to go along with Scherzer. And, maybe Scherzer can also be kind of a seller, for them too. So.
Yeah, I think that's a good fit, especially if our next guy, can't be retained. I mean, if it gets to a ridiculous, amount of years, amount of money, like for sure Verlander fits into the Mets staff like a glove. I know that Chris Bassett might be gone. Taijuan Walker, I believe, is a free agent too. So it's like they're going to need to shore up that rotation if they want to make another push. And they also have deep pockets, and it's a fun market, especially for a guy like Verlander and his wife. So his career, his kind of years are numbered at this point. So like, I'm thinking, average annual value's got to be what it needs to be. And then it's just, I want to win more World Series before, I hang them up.
Yeah, for sure. I could definitely see him with the Dodgers still though. So, I mean, when you're a major league player for any of the leagues, right? They normally just get a rental in whatever city they're in. And, there was a reason why they bought a place in LA. So, I'm sure they just enjoy the company and everything, but maybe not, the taxes or whatever. So hence why they picked Florida. So, I mean, yeah, it could make sense for him to go to LA. And, I think for the baseball sense, there's a lot for Verlander going to the Dodgers where it makes sense for them to make that investment. So, I think moving on to our next pitcher, we have Jacob deGrom. I have him going to the Dodgers in this one, actually. So I was either thinking, I think he wants to go to the East or the West Coast, or I'm thinking he would go to one of the West Coast teams. I was looking at between the Dodgers and the Padres actually in this one for deGrom. In my opinion, I think he fits best with the Dodgers. Kind of speaking to all the points you were mentioning for Verlander going to the Dodgers in that sense, getting that veteran presence. deGrom, he definitely has that injury history. So that's where I'm like, the Dodgers, that they were like, okay, rest here and there, just be healthy, come postseason, because that's when we really want you. We'll have serviceable, starting pitching going forth during the regular season, and we'll win 100 games plus with that. So that's where I'm thinking, they'll want to make that investment on someone like deGrom, and deGrom gets to go on a contender, an annual contender, a team that's, a lot of people will favor winning the World Series next year. So that's what I'm thinking going forth.
Yeah, and I just went with the Mets. I think that the Dodgers is a good pick. If he were to leave, I also saw the Rangers as being like the team that might just be the most silly, might just like, hey, Jacob, 40 mil a year for 5 years or something, like kind of stupid. But I just think at this point in his career, he's made a ton of money. He's probably going to make a lot of money per year in whatever deal he signs here. I just feel like he is the Mets, and he's got some unfinished business there. I mean, as a professional athlete, being committed to an organization that long, I mean, losing in the 2015 World Series feels like ages ago, and it's like, I just can't see him leaving with the team moving in a direction that it is, with an ownership group that kind of needs him at this point. I mean, again, if it gets really silly with the years and dollars, then as an ownership group, maybe you make a better decision. But they just threw Edwin Diaz 5 years for 102, which for a closer is like, that's a lot of money. I mean, you're signing like an above average all-star caliber player with 20 mil a season for that amount of years. So they're willing to make the big bet, and I think they're willing to eat it if it doesn't work out with deGrom throwing 200 innings per year. But there's going to be some contenders here. I'm interested to see how this one plays out. I've also heard the Braves are like a dark horse. I mean, that'd be some ultimate treason there if he went to the Braves. But again, this is business, and he wants to win. And if he went to the Braves too, I mean, that rotation would be just lights out.
Yeah, no, if he were to be like, do like an FU contract with the Braves, that would be something. So, but no, I think that's a good point. I think, if it really depends on what Jacob deGrom wants. If he really feels like there's some unfinished business with the Mets, he's given everything. I think that's what I'm thinking is he's just given everything he can towards the Mets. I'm thinking he just wants to be playing for a contender that he knows will be, getting out of the first round of the world of the playoffs or something. So that's what I'm thinking for that more so there. But I similar to Judge though, I feel like I would love to see him continue his career with the Mets, but I just have this, I guess, feeling that he's going to go, probably to the Dodgers or Padres.
Yeah, from a roster fit perspective, in the way that the Dodgers roll out their starting pitchers every year, that'd be a perfect landing spot for him, because I would probably not want to give him more than 100 innings in the regular season. Just save everything he has for that playoffs, that series when it starts to come. But it seems like year after year, the Dodgers are the type of team they'll buy a couple free agent starting pitchers, convert them into all-stars. It's like, and then they do like the 6-man rotation thing. Sometimes there's 7 guys who have, had, about, double-digit starts throughout the course of the season. It's just like the way that they've, built their team through, a 162 game schedule. It's very smart. It's just always like, once we get to the playoffs, they need that, like that anchor piece, that one piece is going to be like really imposing, really scary. And like, if it's not Verlander, deGrom's a perfect fit.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, the only other team I think for deGrom I could think of would probably be the Phillies. Actually, I think that would be the more interesting one. Again, I feel like all the other teams, for deGrom, it's like, yeah, maybe within the division, that can make sense actually. So, but with the Mets, they're just an interesting organization. So, hopefully they can keep deGrom for, I think, their sake. But yeah, I just have a feeling he's wanting some other pastures right now. So
for sure. So that top 5, those were the top 5, projected, free agents out there of the most talent, or whoever will garner the most amount of money, attention, whatever it is. Now, if you scroll the page down further and further and further, you'll start to see where the White Sox make a jump into the, free agency pool. And I guess, Wayne, we can tackle this however you want to. I see a few positions of need for the White Sox, but if you just had some other way of tackling this for free agency in the White Sox, their offseason planning, feel free to kick it off.
Yeah, I mean, I think, in my opinion, like, target number 1 for the White Sox would be someone like Brandon Nimmo. Like, getting him on to the White Sox to think, if I had all the power in the world, if I am, Rick Hahn, and it's like, hey, I have a bunch of budget that I can spend now, since we don't have like Jose Abreu's contract. What can I get? I would, basically print out exactly what Brandon Nimmo is essentially. So, player in his prime, outfielder, can hit. I think he kind of has it all with regards to what the White Sox are looking for there, at least for my initial kind of pick for that. But then obviously I know second baseman they probably want as well. That's something where it gets a little bit trickier, but for me, I think at least the number one player to budget for would be someone like Brandon Nimmo.
Yeah, from a top end perspective, I could see no better fit on our roster. In center field or the corners, whatever you decide to do with a guy like Nimmo. The only holdups I have when I start thinking about guys in his caliber or higher is the fact that they're going to get a lot of attention. There's a lot of teams looking for outfielders of his kind that are contenders that have money to spend. And I'm just afraid that we're in a position right now where we've, hit 190 plus million last season. We're now down to about 170 ish. And it's like, that's where Reinsdorf has kind of been, rumoring that he's comfortable with, just based on last year's results and what he's looking at. So when I took a peek at, what's in our realm of possibilities, what are things that, could actually be tangible for us. I'm kind of a approach like more is going to be better for like more, let's call them second, third rate options are probably going to be where we fall, or maybe what's best for us in terms of how we match money with, filling some of these holes. So when I started looking around, if we just stay in the outfield for right now, I would love a guy like Jurickson Profar. He 29 years old, came off a 3-WAR season with the Padres. He had some quality playoff at bats as well. He might garner a 3-year commitment, maybe a 4-year if the team's willing to go to that extent. I don't know if that's definitely the case, but I could definitely see 3 years. Maybe he's making double-digit millions, but a guy you can stick in left field, you can stick at second base. He's got that versatility there. He's a switch hitter. He, can hit for some pop if you get him into guaranteed rate field. Maybe he's turning 17 home runs into 20 plus. Not the best on base guy, but in the same sense, he does have some speed. So, could add a different element there for the White Sox. But just, sticking in the outfield too, I think there's a couple other things that I just fundamentally see with our team. I, notice that we're pushing Eloy Jimenez to DH, if we don't make any sort of, trade with him, which I think is the absolute best case scenario. I would actually pull Gold Glover Luis Robert out of center field, put him in left field just to save his body, save him for at bats, because, both those guys missed so many games last year that, as much as I love his defense, I also love the fact that he can, stay on the field. So, with holes, I believe, kicking off the year in center and right, it looks like we need a pair of outfielders as well. So it's, guys for me that really stick out are like Kevin Kiermaier for, his defense. I don't love his offense, but I think, he's from Fort Wayne, Indiana, grew up near, White Sox Nation. So maybe there's a chance we get him on a 1 or 2 year deal, very cheap. I'm looking at a bounce back candidate like Michael Conforto, who missed all of last year. He has the 350 plus OBP. Guy could play right or left, maybe a little bit of center field, lefty bat. I think that'd be nice. And then these are kind of our last resort options on maybe 1 year deals, but aging David Peralta, maybe you possibly stick him in right field. And then Raimel Tapia just got designated for assignment by the Blue Jays. And I've always liked his combo of speed and, contact skills, and then his ability to play all 3 outfield positions. He's a lefty thrower, lefty hitter. Just add some pieces that we really need for this team. But I guess, that's kind of my approach based on like realistic outcomes and in just my sense of what I've heard and kind of what I know of the White Sox. But do you have any thoughts on any of those guys, or just like the strategy behind it?
Yeah, well, it's interesting the Luis Robert moving into left field and everything, just because it's like he is always injured. So maybe it is like, we take him to or put him into a position where, hey, you're very talented. We know you can play center field, but just don't get hurt. Okay. That's all that matters. Your bat is more valuable at the moment. So yeah, no, that's an interesting take. And I think that definitely opens up a lot more, outfielders for the White Sox, I think. Yeah. So I don't think I have anything necessarily wrong with those strategies. I would love to see a player like Jurickson Profar. I think that definitely makes sense somebody that can get on base, and has a pretty good defense overall. So very formidable player there. I don't know. I feel like we definitely need a left-handed at bat, right? I think is the key thing. So whether that be at second base or in the outfield, I think those are the key. That's just one of the key elements, or one of the key positions, or one of the key hitters in the lineup that we're looking for. Just more left-handed at bats. But then budget, man. Yeah, I think it just goes to show, like, man, if we had all the budget, great, but we are kind of a mid-market team, and at the same time, we operate kind of even below market. So, and that's where I definitely feel like, Jerry Reinsdorf. But I'm like, come on, Reinsdorf, how many years he got left? Let's just go YOLO on this, right? Give Nemo some money here, and that's where I feel like, all right, maybe he will go, get a player like that. So, but yeah, I don't know. I was looking at some second baseman though, as you were kind of talking there. So I definitely see some player. We're moving on away from, I think, Josh Harrison. I think that another player out there that I think could do pretty well is Odor. I think he actually kind of fits kind of what we're seeking, in that he's decent defensively, right? But he's actually a second baseman with some pretty decent pop. Had a 30 homer season, and he's hit homers in double digits the previous couple of years. So I think that he would be he's only 28 years old, so I definitely see he's going to be hitting his prime years, and playing in a place like or playing in a lineup with the White Sox. I think that he can definitely do a lot of damage and just fit right in there. So that's who I would probably pick for my second baseman there. But to what everything you said with regards to the shifting and all that, no, I definitely think it all makes sense. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah. Also at second base, I feel like taking a guy from the Mariners, Adam Frazier, possibly if we can get him on a couple year deal here. I mean, he had an off year last year, but perennially has been kind of a pretty steady OBP guy. Average will kick in, even before 2022. He had an all-star campaign in 2021. He's only 30 years old. He can play a little outfield too if we happen to put Mendick at second, because Mendick had a pretty good year, although he bats righty. Kind of same issue that we've had with a lot of the other guys, just stack really heavy righty for our team. But Mendick batted about 290 last year at second base. He's controllable through 27, so it's like, as long as it's not Lurie, I feel like everybody will be, somewhat happy. So I think that's a guy that I'd like to see them target. If not, there's another guy that, is pretty much a no-namer to most, but Jace Peterson played second, third base for the Milwaukee Brewers. He's a guy with really good defensive WAR metrics. I mean, he's in the top 40 for players in the MLB. Steady enough bat. I mean, his average will be a little bit lower. But in general has some pop, has some, OBP skills there too. But a guy who's really streaky, could get hot. But I just see him as kind of like this versatile piece, whether or not, he's a starter every day or just a guy we can platoon with Mendick. Just like hey, if we can't get one of these guys, like, hey, we've got a backup here that can at least be serviceable in a platoon split. So, as far as position players, if we just improve the defense, get a little bit more speed, get some guys who can get on base a little bit more. It's not just, home run derby throughout our lineup. I'll be really happy because, we're going to, kind of ban the shift next year. We're going to need a second baseman who can cover some pretty good ground over there. And we need somebody who can actually trust, into our future, at least in the near term, whether that's just, 1 or 2 or 3 years. Like we've been shuffling the deck every year since feels like Iguchi was over there. So we just need somebody who can, just be steady over there at the Keystone. Yeah,
for sure. And I don't know. Yeah, I'm optimistic though. I liked everything. I heard from the White Sox new manager and everything. So I'm very excited. I think going forth towards this next coming season. Now that we don't have La Russa to kind of just sleep away this entire season away, so I'm definitely thinking that the bats will will come alive. I think this season compared to last season, it was just so anemic and hard to watch. I think and hey, there's also a lot of potential, obviously. Kind of in the minor leagues as well. There's a lot of players I think that could potentially fit in. So who knows exactly what kind of happens, but I'm just excited that it seems like there's going to be kind of new faces and a new light for this team.
Yeah, and we'll see what happens with guys that are currently rostered on our team salaried, guys like Lucas Giolito, Gavin Sheets. If we're not going to sign Lucas past this year, or, Gavin Sheets is no longer going to play outfield and we just need him to be, first base DH, like we're probably going to commit most of our time to Vaughn and Jimenez. So it's like, I've just been looking around and listening to trade rumors and stuff, but, I've heard one rumor, which I think is kind of nuts, but, I'd be happy about it, but just a 1 year for 1 year swap of Giolito for Teoscar Hernandez on the Blue Jays. That happened to come to be, we'd have to figure out what we're doing in our rotation. Maybe that's us signing a couple free agent pitchers, but didn't hate that idea. I also thought, Gavin Sheets, just based on, roster composition and what the Mariners are trying to do with Jesse Winker, could the White Sox step in and offer them Gavin Sheets and maybe Jake Diekman for their bullpen for a guy like Winker, who's a little bit, coming off a pretty enraged season. Seemed like he got in a lot of fights, didn't have a really good, year overall, but a guy who can play left field, center field, right field. The year before he was an all-star. Again, it's like taking some gambles on some guys that, might be a little bit overlooked going into the year, but just kind of thinking through what we can do. And I will say, if we don't get Johnny Cueto back, I'll be really disappointed. I just think he's so important for just the chemistry in our dugout. I've heard that him and Grifol had a really good relationship in Kansas City together. So maybe that's, to our advantage. And if we can just sneak out like Sean Manaea or Mike Clevenger too, that's my final say. Like if we could get just a guy who was at an all-star to Cy Young caliber, who just had a bad year, or, whatever it was, but like these guys are still in their younger 30s, moving into some of their prime years. They had off years, but it's like, we need to take some home run swings here with some risky but high reward type players if we're truly trying to be more than just, a division competitor. It's like we've spent this money, we've committed all this time and, energy to building this roster. It has disappointed us a little bit, but in the same sense, we won back-to-back divisions in 20 and 21. So it's like, it's now or never, like you're saying. If it takes Jerry spending some money on a guy like Nimmo, like, let's do it, man. Pull the trigger. Let's go.
Yeah, no, I'm all for it. Yeah, I guess one dark horse, starting pitcher that I would love to see back, if we do get rid of Cueto, is Jose Quintana. I'd love to see him back actually in the White Sox. It'd be kind of funny to, from the White Sox perspective of getting him back, and then also, we also have Eloy Jimenez as well. So it's like, we have all the pieces that we gave up. So. I'd love to see him, I think, because I really enjoyed watching him when he was with the White Sox. And he pitched really well with actually the Cardinals, I think, last season. So that would be my only other, White Sox starting pitcher that I would love to see, maybe come back.
Yeah, that's truly a realistic outcome there. I really do feel like there could be some momentum there if it's on a 1 year, 2 year deal, whatever it could be. But yeah, I'd love to see him back in the cell, guaranteed rate field, whatever we want to call it these days, Comiskey, for those that grew up in the 90s. But yeah, man, well, let's hope the White Sox do some interesting things this offseason, get us in a place where we feel, more comfortable going into the year. As far as now, it's looking a little shaky on paper, but I'm hoping they get there sometime soon.
Yeah, for sure. I guess with that, let's hop on some NBA talk now. Are there any storylines, or I know we've talked about the NBA previously. We've given some of our preseason takes, and now several games into the season. things are shaping up a little bit. What are some of your takeaways that you've been seeing or noticing so far?
Yeah, Golden State stumbling out of the chute here. The Los Angeles Lakers as well. It's kind of a West Coast thing for me. I just like looking at those two teams and truly like just where they're at and like what they're ultimately doing. I mean, obviously the Warriors are in a much better position right now. Just feeling like maybe some of the rotation pieces or lineup decisions haven't really worked out in their favor so far. They just sent James Wiseman to the G League. I think that's a good move for him right now. And it seemed like he was pretty open to it. He didn't really see it as a demotion. So that's positive. Maybe he can, just work on his defense, work on his scoring, just become a true, center, which I think, a guy who can block shots, a guy who can play good defense, give you some good minutes, early on in his career here and see if he can get back on track. But also just seeing guys like, Moses Moody getting DMPs like on a constant basis. It's like, are these pieces just, those tantalizing prospects that we look at and we're just like, yo, man, look at this upside here. He's 6'9", he can shoot, he had a great, college run and like, they got him, as their 10th guy. And it's like, we all kind of gush over what this guy could be, but sometimes, reality and, those expectations don't always play out the way you want them to. And, maybe they have to look in the mirror and kind of, make some hard calls if they get to the All-Star break and they're still middling at 500. I mean, I think guys like Draymond Green or maybe a Klay Thompson could be on the block. And, I think I've seen the Anthony Davis rumors for those two guys. And I'm kind of like, I don't really love that for Golden State. I mean, Anthony Davis is Anthony Davis and, he's special when he's on his game. Number one, he's got to be on his game, but also it's just like it comes down to health for that guy. And, I just don't know. I'd be very hesitant if I were the Warriors to shake up, your all-time core and to make some really drastic moves unless, it's really trending, very average or below average, as we get through the season here. So hopefully they turn it around for fans like us, guys who really like Curry, love Thompson, just love that whole unit for the most part. So I think they'll find a way. The Lakers, it's just crazy how it's like they're now 3-10 as of tonight, November 15th, but it's like, where is this team going? And, will there come a point where they're like, well, we're now deliberately tanking because we just want to get the highest possible pick? But it's like, you got to think even deeper than that. Just with a guy like LeBron on the roster, like, is this whole thing done as far as like this run with LBJ and, Anthony Davis? It's like, even if you get that first overall pick, it's, Victor next year, it's like, maybe that would be the one thing that would make this thing move in a better direction. But in the same sense, it's like, I just don't know what to really expect and where this thing will go this year. I mean, I think a Westbrook trade should have happened over the offseason, and it probably will happen, maybe even before the All-Star break, just to kind of shake it up and, save whatever face they can at this point. But it's just like at 3-10 with that, group of talent. I know you don't have the 3-point shooting. The defense has been pretty lackluster, but, Wayne, do you have any thoughts on the Warriors or Lakers or those takes?
Yeah, well, I know with regards to the Lakers, I think that's the funny part is that, and I don't know all the ins and outs of this, but I believe that the Lakers, they traded away potentially this year's pick. I think it's like it might be protected to the Pelicans for the Anthony Davis trade. So in a way, they're tanking for Victor Wembanyama for the Pelicans essentially now. So that's where that could be interesting. Where if they were to just lose all their games and everything, then potentially Victor could be headed over towards the Pelicans. So, but yeah, it just doesn't make sense for Russell Westbrook to be there. It's nice. I think I saw that he came from the bench, but he just does not fit that squad at all. He's somebody that needs to have the ball. Either that, or he just needs to spend an entire offseason doing nothing but shooting and changing his game, basically. So I think that's just my thoughts on the Lakers. They allocated the resources or misallocated the resources they had to have kept. was it KCP instead of Russell Westbrook. It just was a better fit. They just need to surround the LeBron with shooters, and they really haven't. So I think their misfault there. So, but yeah, with regards to the Warriors, I think that it is still early in the season. They're still trying to figure out the rotations a little bit. Looks like Wiseman just isn't cutting it necessarily at this point. It is one of those things or hard things in the NBA, right? Where it's like, oh, you're 21. Why aren't you an all-star yet? So we see that with Lauri Markkanen actually, with the Jazz right now. He's playing like an all-star right now because he's being put in a situation that is conducive towards maximizing his potential. So that's definitely where it definitely helps to be in a situation where you are either the focus or you're just put into a scenario that caters towards your strengths. So, I feel kind of the same way with Patrick Peterson too, where the Bulls are operating with Patrick Peterson kind of being off the ball a little bit more. Where
Patrick Williams.
Patrick Williams.
I love Patrick Peterson. I love the DB.
Yeah,
I was like, wait, but I did see Peterson recently picking off a couple balls. But anyways,
yeah. Definitely.
He was a star last week.
Yeah, he was like, I think he caught it. Yeah, like the last interception there, right? So, but Patrick Williams, who I've talked about a lot in this podcast, but yeah, like Patrick Williams, I feel like he definitely, in my opinion, he needs the ball in his hand more. So he's former point guard, so he definitely is used to that, and then now he's kind of doing things in the pick and roll department more so of, and he sometimes looks lost out there, and that's still developing. So I feel a similar situation with Wiseman, as a big man, where he's I think growing up and in college, right, he was kind of used to having the ball in his hand most of the time. Now he's playing off the ball, and that's definitely a big thing for somebody to having to adapt their game for. So, and the Warriors, obviously they're getting a little bit older, so they might be just pacing themselves. So I'm not panicking, I guess, too much if I'm a Warriors fan, but it definitely doesn't look the best right now. So, I think those are my initial thoughts, I think, with those two teams.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I saw the Knicks, it might have been the Knicks offered, I want to say the Lakers, like Rose and another Evan Fournier or something. And I think that was the extent to it for Westbrook and a first round pick, but it's like this reluctance for the Lakers to give up those 25, 27 picks. I mean, I get it. You've given up your entire cupboard, but if you're holding LeBron James and Anthony Davis, like you got to make that decision of like, hey, this is now or never. I mean, and I feel like that should have been last offseason, but they didn't pull the trigger there. They're doubling down. But another takeaway I have from this is like, is the big three concept like slowly or like immediately kind of dying out of most like GM's perspectives? Like, is this concept of a big three like still something that executives and teams are going to desire moving forward? Like, it's kind of TBD at this point with a team like the Lakers. We got the Nets. It's like, we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess going back towards Victor Wembanyama potentially going to the Pelicans. Yeah, it looks like the trade for Anthony Davis, they agreed in 2023 that they could potentially swap picks actually. So
okay.
Yeah. So there is potential that all of this tanking could land Victor Wembanyama to the Pelicans actually. So
there are no protections on that Lakers pick.
I don't.
What? Okay.
Yeah, I don't believe so. So yeah.
I don't think the Lakers want to do that because if you paired him up with Zion and BI and McCollum and the rest of that crew, I mean that'd be a pretty dangerous team starting next year.
Yeah. So if I'm them, I'm like, y'all better win and not make us look that bad. So, not get us the number one pick because I mean, it's looking pretty good right now for him. So,
for sure. Did you have any takes from the NBA?
I mean, I guess a couple of my biggest takes. The Blazers, man, they're looking really good. I think adding in Jeremy Grant, I think, was just the smartest move possible for them. I see he's like averaging 20 points per game. He's always been like a solid defensive player. So I think adding in him was kind of the missing piece that they needed to pair up with Lillard. And then obviously Anthony Simmons is contributing a lot. I think I had him as my most improved player. I think going into the season, he averaged 17 points last season, now 22 so far. So I think just the play that they're having right now is pretty cool. It's nice to see also Chauncey Billups getting some love there. I think I might have had him as like maybe Chauncey Billups is like my like dark horse for coach of the year, but right now he's looking pretty good, like kind of being number one there. So I know it's like I guess like kind of a toss up between Chauncey Billups and the Jazz coach there. So, but yeah, I really like what I'm seeing from the Blazers. And kind of how nobody really gave them a thought. I don't think either of us gave them a thought, I think, going into this season. So yeah, I love how they're playing right now. I think, in my opinion, Luka, I know there's talks right now between Luka and Tatum as MVP. At least, so far, I think like most teams are like maybe 11 some odd games in or whatever. Yeah, I think Luka is probably like my MVP for. I know he leads the league in scoring, so which is kind of cliche in there and all that, but he, in my opinion, has just been the most valuable player by far. So has been killing it. I think game in and game out, and it has really contributed to, I think, overall to like if I were to say like the actual like most valuable player in terms of best player on the best team, I think Tatum would win that. In that the Celtics, are on top of the East, and then Tatum has been as good of a player. He definitely showcasing what he did in the playoffs and kind of continuing that momentum going into this season. That's even without their coach and all that scandal that was happening with the Udoka. So I definitely, would think maybe an MVP award is right now is between those two. So yeah, those are my two takes. Would love to hear your take on my takes, Pat.
Yeah, it's nice to see Portland step out and, play, not only above 500 basketball, which I think was in the realm of possibilities for them, but to just kind of be leading the Western Conference. It says a lot about, the guys they brought over, like you're saying, with Jeremy Grant, Anthony Simons, obviously there, Jurkic and Lillard. It's like, it's a good core group of guys. And, Josh Hart's there too. I think he's a real grinder. It's like, I'm just wondering, like, what's their ultimate upside here? Like, is this just a hot start and then, they come back down to earth a bit? I do think they're a playoff team. Whether or not they're, in the top six there, I could see them being a 4, 5, 6 seed, maybe, playing at the very worst. But it's good to see them kind of step out. But it's weird. Like, if you look at the Western Conference, it's like, which teams, in the standings near the top, do you really trust to like go all the way? Because I think we're both, pretty bullish on the Warriors, but in the same sense, like, I think you mentioned the Nuggets. I think the Grizzlies up there make a lot of sense. I like Phoenix. So I like this start. I'm just wondering, like, the teams like the Blazers, like the Jazz, I don't think too much about the Mavericks, but it's like, can these teams really be, Western Conference title contenders? And I just feel like from the Blazers standpoint, they're a little bit too small. I think it makes for a very athletic, fun team. It's got a lot of energy throughout the regular season, but I think when teams are really starting to take things seriously, we'll see them, and we'll see them how they kind of like step out and adjust to maybe bigger rotations, bigger lineups, and teams that have just like maybe a little bit more experience at the very top.
Yeah, I'd be curious. What is your take on the Jazz? Do you think that they're going to make the playoffs? I mean, they're a hot start right now. They're third in the Western Conference, 10-5 and everything. So I don't know what to make of them. I'm like, they're playing great basketball. I love the way that they play basketball, very team oriented. I talked about Lauri Markkanen, so I'm like, are they for real? Like, are they going to be in the playoffs, I think, at the end of the season, or is it? Are they going to kind of run out of steam? Our team's going to figure them out because nobody. I don't think anybody had them predicted them to be in the playoffs much. Let alone like I think number 3 in the Western Conference. So yeah, what do you think about that whole situation over there?
This team is very fun. It's very fun because even in those mega deals that they pulled off, they were bringing in some quality, veteran players. And like when we sat back and kind of looked at, okay, here's the finish of this roster, and it's like you still got Jordan Clarkson, you still had Mike Conley there. Now you bring over a guy like Colin Sexton, who's if he's not a starting point guard, he's very much like one of the best 6 men in the league. Laurie, we know he's a consummate professional, and he's still pretty early on in his career. I think he's like 26 years old or something, but it was kind of like what you were saying is it's kind of like when you have all the opportunity in the world just to play your game, like nobody really is going to sweat you too hard because I think the expectation is like this team's going to be trash. It's like he actually just steps out and like he's like putting up 20 a game and stuff. And it's just fun, man. It's just fun to watch these guys like kind of come together and, probably, knowing that they were going to get dogged by the press and by, mainstream media and stuff. Like, no, I didn't step out and say like Utah Jazz are penciled into my, play-in tournament even. It's just like, I just think, when you actually take a step back and you look through the depth on that roster, you're like, you are missing like a number 1, you're missing a number 2, but you got a lot of 3s in here, like a lot of 3s, or, maybe some 2 types. I think Colin Sexton is like at the top of his game, could be a 2 type for a playoff contender down the line, like a real true Eastern Conference, Western Conference title contender. Cause he always had the talent. It's just him and Garland was an odd fit. So one of them had to go at some point, but to bring over like a Walker Kessler and a Malik Beasley, from the Timberwolves. And, I think overall, like you got that haul of picks just waiting to be realized over these coming years. It's going to be fun. I think from Danny Ainge's perspective, like he's mentioned, like he's not trying to tank. He's mentioned that, he wants his team to be competitive. Like, why would he be upset that his team is 10-5? And I believe him to an extent. I think obviously when you trade away your top 2 players, like for a lot of draft picks, like you're trying to get the best out of that draft capital. But I could also see a scenario where he's like, well, we've got all this, this depth of draft capital. Maybe we swing a big deal this offseason, or maybe, some of these picks hit and then we've got extra core pieces to go along with some of these guys. But if I had to truly put my money down, I would say this team evens out to maybe more close to 500. Maybe they get to the trade deadline. They're looking at Jordan Clarkson. They're looking at, maybe another veteran rotation piece so they can say, hey, we can actually get like another pick here, or we can get another really young player that, is controllable over the years that we could, add to this growing core. But I think this is the best of a bad situation for the Utah Jazz. And like, I'd be really excited if I was their GM and just their fan base on like what's to come over the next, 3 to 5 years.
Yeah. It looks like they're projected to have 3 picks in this draft. So, and right now they're kind of in, kind of projected to be mid rounds here. So they actually have the Timberwolves draft pick. They have the 76ers draft pick, and then they also have their own draft pick. So it'll be interesting to see like what happens. Whenever the NBA has like top level talent in the NBA or in the draft, it's obviously like the talent level just kind of gets pushed down, right? So we're seeing that with we've mentioned Victor, and then obviously now there's like Scoot Henderson out there too, like really top level kind of players who are getting a lot of notoriety. So if they even don't get like one of those top players, they can still build a really, really decent team, I think, with the kind of the core they have, almost kind of like how the Oklahoma City Thunder are kind of doing that right now, right? They do have like a star in Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, but I think just adding more pieces around that person, just having a bunch of young, talented players, and then, hey, maybe eventually they do make a big trade for, kind of like a player like a Donovan Mitchell, right? So maybe that is something that they are seeking forth in the future, again, with all these picks that they have. Because, hey, you can have like a team full of like late round, first round draft picks, but odds are, not one of those. You're going to need a star eventually to come in the NBA, and sometimes those late round draft picks just aren't going to pan out as a star in the NBA. So that's where I'm thinking that the Jazz are kind of headed. But yeah, if it'll be interesting to see though. It's like come like trade deadline time, and they're like like maybe the 7th, 8th seed. I do wonder if Danny Ainge will be like, "That's a hell with it. Let's just get rid of all these guys now and kind of go all full blown makeover."
Yeah, I wouldn't put it past them. And if it's not this offseason, it's like if the Timberwolves, for example, just barely scratch into the play-in tournament, what's to say that, the next season after that, they're not god awful? Because it's like, you made that all-in move, and it's like you just don't have the depth, or, these pieces just really don't work together. They're disgruntled. Maybe Cat wants a trade, maybe Ant wants a trade, whatever it is. And then it's like Utah's just rolling in those high Minnesota picks for a while. And, like you're saying, if they unload some guys just to position themselves a little better, like then they can double dip or whatever, it could be. So they're in the best of, again, like not the position that I think most franchise wanted to be in, just because it's Utah, it's hard to attract like the top bill free agents and stuff. But like, if they can just build strength in numbers over time, like this team could be competitive, in the near future.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. Is there any other NBA news you want to discuss?
We've got to touch on Kyrie Irving again. He's going on Game 7, absent from the team. He had a list of things that he had to accomplish. There was some criticism about it, obviously, just from a racial perspective, as far as like, hey, this is kind of going overblown, as far as somebody having to redeem themselves over already apologizing for the perceived anti-Semitic remarks they made through his tweet and his interviews and stuff. So, at this point, 7 games on, it seems like LeBron's spoken up, said it was excessive. Jaylen Brown, the head of the NBA Players Association, also said it was excessive. But then we've got some guys like, Jalen Rose and Charles Barkley who've actually kind of pushed back and, think that, perhaps, this is acceptable, or, this is, I don't want to say it's acceptable, like based on, these terms, but just in the sense of like, hey, you did the crime, here's some of the penalty. And like, they shouldn't feel bad about themselves siding with the NBA in this perspective, like an Adam Silver or Joe Tsai, because, it's Kyrie Irving from the same race. It's like, hey, I'm just seeing, this for what it is. And like, I think this punishment kind of fits what he did. But that's kind of where I'll just kind of put it out there. But do you have any thoughts on his suspension right now, or some of the reaction that's going around?
Yeah, and I forgot who mentioned it, but I did kind of side with I guess this perspective of, this whole like 5 things or whatever that you need to do before you like before you can come back to the to playing and everything, and we pay you. I get the whole it's legal, it's kind of within the right and all that, but in a way it's kind of childish in a way, like I don't know, like you're punishing a kid or whatever. You're like, all right, yeah, you need to do these things, and then you can get your ball back and you can play with Timmy or whatever. Like, I don't know, I feel it's a little bit kind of childish in that sense, or like parent trying to discipline a child. And I think was it Joseph Tsai, the owner of the Nets? I think he had dinner with Kyrie, and it was like, okay, Kyrie's not anti-Semitic. He's stated all that, so it's like, okay, glad that we got that all straight. But then it's like, okay, you still have to do all these things, and then I think I believe one of those stipulations were that he needed to donate $500,000. Was it to the Anti-Defamation League, I believe, and I believe the Anti-Defamation League was like, no, we don't want that because we don't like you, Kyrie. So now it's like, okay, if he were to play, he's trying to play ball, pardon the pun there, but all the stakeholders in this whole thing are not playing ball with him necessarily. So that's where I feel like this whole thing is kind of being childish. In a way, it's like I think somebody called it the Barbra Streisand effect, right? Where more like I don't know what the revenue is that's happening for this documentary, but nobody knew this documentary that's been out for like 4 years, but now they do. And like, I think Amazon's charging like 5 times what it was before. So, and nobody cares what Amazon does or what, Jeff Bezos is doing, I guess there. But yeah, like it's just, to me, it's become this whole mess that it's like, it's almost like they're trying to like make Kyrie, I don't want to say look like a martyr. Because in my honest truth, like I feel like with the whole Kyrie situation, it definitely was, it has gotten blown kind of out of, I guess the contextual portion maybe is a more appropriate thing to do there. Just that they've made the movie that nobody knew of before more notable than anything else. And on top of that, they've kind of, made Kyrie, like, they've acted in a way, they being like the Nets organization, the NBA, the media, they've basically acted in a way that has made themselves look bad, almost as much as Kyrie has, towards, I guess, the general public media and all that. So I think that's where I'm like, wow, I can't believe that, there's a lot of, I guess, comments that, I see on social media. It's like they've kind of proven Kyrie's point about this whole, conspiracies and stuff. So that's where I'm like, they're almost feeding fuel to the fire. And yeah, it's just really caused a lot more, I think, separation amongst people, and groups of people. And that's where I feel like, this is all, what are we all trying to do here exactly? So I think everything's just been escalated more so than I think it ought to have been. I think there just had to have been a conversation between Kyrie, maybe some, maybe somebody from the Jewish community invited Kyrie over just to have a nice conversation, talk things through. And then, if he wants to issue a statement afterwards, great. If he doesn't, that's totally fine as well. So I think something like that ought to have taken place more so of, rather than like, he's anti-Semitic, let's suspend him. Let's see, like, to me, that just makes it like look all bad on the organizations that, I guess Kyrie is associated with here. So,
yeah, I got the line that you're going on here when you're like, let's stay within the context of what he actually did and the penalties receiving for that actual action. It's funny because that one action is preceded by so many other actions that were irritants that kept him off the basketball court, that kept him in the spotlight representing the Nets organization, other organizations prior, in a negative light. We don't know the amount of headaches that these owners have to go through, the players have to go through, the coaches have to go through when one of these things, blows out. And it's like, once you see this pattern of somebody doing something that's just like, it's not basketball related anymore, and it's just about this guy's like opinions or, his following or whatever else it is, his pocketbooks, etc. It's like, you've now become like beyond an irritant. Like, we're trying to figure out, what we can do with you as an asset, because, if you weren't so damn talented, like, you'd just be cut, you would be just completely removed from this situation. We trade you for the highest bid possible and we, offload you. But it's like, because Kyrie is so talented, if it's this fine line, this fine dance that they have to play with every single one of these situations. So yeah, I think a 5-game minimum suspension with some sort of like oversight on whether or not they feel like he's in a position to play after that probably would have been enough. Do you need to have this list of 5 demands? Like, no, I think that was totally to pull his pants down, in the national spotlight, to say, hey, you've done things that make us look bad. Like, it's our turn to embarrass you. And how does it feel? So it's like, this is just a war between organization and player at this point. One thing I thought was, just interesting, and it's kind of like coming back to like, I guess this line of like, is he not in his right to make this anti-Semitic post and kind of not acknowledge up front right away that he's not anti-Semitic? Like, I think, Shannon Sharp put it out there that, when this happens, conversely to, it's hate against an African-American, or just African Americans as a group of people. Like there are no consequences in sports. And I kind of like, I get the bigger point that he's making. I think that African Americans over the course of, civilization have been, one of the most devastated races of mankind. It's one of those things though, where we've seen Don Imus be taken off the radio. We've seen Donald Sterling and Robert Sarver lose their franchises. We've seen Myers Leonard, who also made anti-Semitic comments. He's never, stepped back on the court again. And, Riley Cooper also, dropped a bunch of N-bombs at a concert. He's no longer, or was no longer, playing football very much after he made those statements. So I think, people rushing to the aid of Kyrie Irving over this in support of, and kind of like, it's Kyrie and us versus the world. It's like, I just wish they'd pick a better representative if they want to like have sympathy for somebody in their situation, or have sympathy for wrongdoings that have affected them, like as part of their culture, or part of United States history, whatever it is. Like, I think we were talking about this, but if this was LeBron James, or, just trying to think of, a Jason Tatum that made these comments, or a Chris Paul, or Dwayne Wade in his prime, I think that everybody would look at this situation much differently. They'd say, okay, that's kind of awkward. I wish he didn't put that out there. Let's figure out why. Okay, he's having a little bit of back and forth here. He doesn't want to admit fault. He doesn't want to show that he was wrong in the situation, but then ultimately comes to apologize. I think a guy like LeBron James wouldn't even get a game suspension. He'd get just scrutinized a little bit in the press. And then once, they finally got to, an apology, I think it'd have been over. But I think this is very much more than just a one-time within the confines of what we're looking at kind of situation, where it's like, this is a person with a history of, these types of negative patterns that ultimately just keep them off the floor and, create toxicity in locker rooms and stuff. And, I know Kyrie is a good person deep down. So I know he does a lot for the African-American community. I know he's like very much giving, and he's trying to put out, I guess his best word, his best advice to the world in that sense, and how he perceives it. But I think we've just gotten to a point where, outside of this suspension, what possibly should be over at this point is kind of lingered on. But it's like, it really comes down to, even when he's out of this suspension, like, what do you do with him?
Exactly. And it's like, okay, after this whole suspension, is he going to get the proper minutes or all that? Is he going to, like, is this going to affect his play? Like, he's always been really, really good about all that. But it just goes to like, okay, are we still going to be competing for the NBA finals this year or what? Cause I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know. There's a lot of distractions here, I think, for them, as I guess opposed to, teams that are competing, just, head down towards, winning a championship. So that's where I'm like, man, I think that's where this conflict is, where it's, championship contender versus, maybe, a team that's kind of just in disarray. So, I do wonder if, like, what does Kevin Durant think about all this? Like, honestly, so, he kind of teetered about like wanting to be traded, I think, right, this offseason. And these might be the kind of the reasons why of, just working with, players like Kyrie and then Ben Simmons as well. Just everybody has kind of their own thing and distractions compared to, like, the overall goal, I think, maybe like Kevin Durant wants, of like winning an NBA championship. So, and hey, great. I get that there's more important things than just basketball. That's totally fine. But at the same time, like, the things that are happening right now with Kyrie and the Nets and everything else, like, it just seems like there's just a lot of distractions and lack of focus that's happening right now. Do I wish that was there a simpler solution towards this fight? Yes. It's now come to the point where this has become basically a circus, I think. So I'm just hoping that this thing just gets resolved for everybody. And people just move on to the next thing. So, yeah.
I think the Nets they'd probably be in the best situation to try to move past this, get him back on a court, see what he can put together up until the All-Star break and reassess there. Try to get top value for him, at least for a half season. See what you can get. But, yeah, I think we're beyond the point of like he's an all-star caliber asset if you're holding him as a team. I think he is an all-world player on the court individually, but when it comes to being an asset, within an organization, what can be traded for him, he's really lost a lot of his value. And that was last offseason. That was, some part of last season as well. It's just like, yeah, it's like you said, been an ongoing circus. And this Nets organization is just quickly going into the dumpster. And yeah, I guess final point I would say is I've seen a lot of divisiveness, online, even with guys like a Jalen Rose, who I have a lot of respect for just in terms of his overall takes in life and on the game and stuff, but like taking a lot of criticism in his, comment feeds about, people rushing to this guy's defense and rushing, to support him, to follow his lead. It's like, I would love to see a lot of these issues when it comes to racial tension, a lot of the wrongs be righted, a lot of the injustices become more just. It's just like, I just hope that, they could rally around a figure, that actually like is consistently, driving good, is consistently driving toward, maybe more peace than hate. It's kind of like, I just wish they'd find a figure to rally around besides a guy like Kanye West or a Kyrie Irving. Cause it's like, is this really going to be the solution to these problems? I think we touched on that last time, but yeah, I'd love to see guys, instead of attacking a guy like Jalen Rose, just try to like build a conversation that actually, uplifts rather than to like just, both sides bashing each other.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. It's like, in a way, I feel like the message isn't inherently wrong, right? At least, from what I've garnered from the, kind of the truth aspect of, the Black Hebrews more so of, and kind of the origins of, of the Jewish community, like, yeah, there's, Black Jews and et cetera, et cetera. So, and that their origins are more so garnered on there, where there definitely is a line. It's like, okay, well, what about, like are white Jews like impacting, the Black Jewish community? That's something where it's like, well, this is going to get a little confrontational. So,
sure.
Yeah, like that's a divisive thing, is calling out one community and having it oppose another community. So that's for me where it's like, what is the outcome? What is the end goal that, that these people that are bashing others online and all, what is the end goal that they want, right? Do they want justice? What does that justice look like? This is where things get dangerous. So, like this isn't some sort of keyboard game. This is real life where people will die if, things aren't said properly or things escalate. So that's where I, try to side on the side of caution more so with regards to, how do you word things and how do you say things to other people? Because what you say does have an impact on them. So, but yeah, it really just is overall, I think, unfortunate with kind of just what's kind of transpired, I think, from this whole situation. So
most definitely. Yeah, we'll see where this goes. We're at 7 games again. We'll see how long this lingers on off the court. If he does decide to join the team again, if they let him I guess that much, but we'll just see and move on from there. But I guess turning to the NFL, kind of a hard transition here, but Wayne, just wanted to kick it back to you. We're through week 10 now. We see some teams really rising to the top here, some teams that have utterly disappointed. Do you have anything to point out that really stood out to you this past week?
How about those Commanders, man? taking out the Eagles, and now they got Chase Young coming back. So is it Taylor Hinkies like reign now? Is it his division? He's gonna run the gauntlet. I mean, yeah, I don't know. For the Eagles, that was such a disappointing loss, I would say. The refs definitely, I think, had an impact on the game there. But at the same time, that's just the nature of the game. So, Eagles still rock solid team. I think they just ran into a very motivated team that had nothing to lose. Still has some talent and on both sides of the ball. Just yeah, they were just really motivated. It was nice to see it. Ron Rivera too. I think he lost a parent. I think it was his mom as well. So he was definitely on high emotions for this week. So good to see him kind of have a victory in that sense. So, but if I'm an Eagles fan, I think it's like, hey, we'll take this loss. Hey, I know it wasn't against like the Chiefs or the Bills, but that's really going to happen, I think, for any team that's looking to contend. Sometimes teams just lose, and then you just have to move forward from there. So, but good win, I think, for the Commanders. I think this is like their best win of their season by far. So,
yeah, what a gutsy win. They've got enough there from like a veteran presence and some real playmakers on the defensive side, offensive side, where they can pull these upsets off. And Taylor Heineke is just riding this momentum of getting a second chance. Being the guy who's been dogged in these situations where it's like, yeah, you're just not good enough, so we're going to go to the next guy. On the depth chart, he kind of like has a Gardner Minshew vibe, or maybe like a Nick Foles in his prime years, as like a guy who can just step off the bench and lead a team. And I think the guys really like him. They rally around him. We saw the video of him kind of pulling off the Minnesota Vikings thing with Cousins and Patrick Peterson 2 straight weeks wearing everybody's chains. So like he was loaded up last night with a Busch Light in his hand. It was like nice to see them win. But this victory gets me one step closer to a free bottle of bourbon from my father-in-law. So as long as the Commanders keep winning, our Bears keep staying stagnant there in the NFC North, everything will be good for me at the end of the year as far as it goes. But I guess my own takeaway was just watching the Buffalo-Minnesota game. I thought that was one of the most exciting games I've seen all year. I think it was just as good as that Dolphins-Bills game earlier on. I just have different thoughts on both sides. It's like, one, was Josh Allen playing hurt? I'm sure his arm wasn't feeling too good. So, how much better would their game have gone had he been at 100% strength? Like, we don't know. Maybe this isn't even a conversation, but there is some element of his game, watching the Miami one and now this one, where he's kind of fumbled a little bit in the clutch. Like he's kind of fumbled literally in the clutch. And, that kind of handle, on the goal line, which led to the touchdown was obviously huge, ended the game, for the Bills. But it's just like, I love everything that Allen brings. And I like everything about this Buffalo team still. I'm not going to overreact too much, but they seem like they're vulnerable to being upset. Like they're vulnerable to maybe having everything in place for the big game, and then just they get a couple of body blows and it's like, oh man, now it's a fight. And I guess keeping my eye out, like I still think they could be a team that gets a first round bye. Maybe they're the 2 seed, maybe if they swing it back they can get that 1 seed. But it's like I'm just a little bit more concerned than I was originally. Like I still think the talent's there, the team's there, but it's like they could be susceptible to a playoff loss. Outside of that, the Vikings, I mean, stepping up, stepping out, that Justin Jefferson catch was one of the best catches I've seen, especially with the context. Couldn't really believe how he was able to coddle that ball back in with the defender like completely on the ball. So I was just kind of mystified watching that, especially in the fourth down and long spot. So it was just awesome to see that. And this Vikings team's really gutsy. They're going to play to the end of the whistle. Patrick Peterson coming up with a pair of picks. The offense is seemingly flowing through, Kirk Cousins, and, Dalvin Cook had a long run to the house. Like they've got enough, star power on that offense for sure. Defensively, I've always been kind of in question, like how really good is this team when they play elite teams? Like they gave up 30 points in this game. So it wasn't like they've shown that they can shut another team down. But they're 8-1. So are the Eagles. So they're both trending their way toward a first round bye. I'm sure a team like the Vikings would love to have a week off, would love to host a team in Minnesota and their home. And we'll just see. Like, I don't know what the end all be all upside is for this club, but they're stacking wins and they're staying relevant up there, and they haven't lost too many big games as of yet. So we'll see.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good take. Like, this whole Vikings team, man. They got some swagger. Yeah, from the chain gang with with Kirk Cousins and Adam Scheffler like imitating him, right? I guess yeah, they're having a lot of fun, and they're having a lot of fun winning. So it's like Justin Jefferson, man, this guy, best, like he's got to be like one of the best in for the running for like best offensive player, this season. So, but yeah, I think in terms of their defense too and what they bring to the table, they definitely have like a lot of like solid players. I would say, if Patrick Peterson, like this was like 5 years ago, like super, but still, like they have a lot of, I think, solid pieces overall on the defensive side, and they make enough plays on the offensive side, especially with Justin Jefferson and Dalvin Cook, right? To make those plays to help them win games. So I think that's just where they stand out, have a pretty solid offensive line overall. So that enables them to make those plays and Kirk Cousins to like not screw up or whatever. So, but I do like actually your point right now with Josh Allen of like there's been a number of instances where at least this season, right, where they were kind of expected to win. It looked like that the things were turning in favor for them to win, but then a fumble happens, a bad interception, and that's kind of like how they've lost 3 games so far. So this is kind of a good I guess issues to have right now in the regular season. Like hopefully Josh Allen, who I definitely think is hurt, there's definitely been reports of him being injured and such, so I think he's just kind of wanted to tough it out. So I think it's good for them to kind of get it out of their system, if you will, right now, rather than doing these things in the playoffs. So hopefully, if I'm a Bills fan, like that's kind of the route that they go more so of, rather than fumbling in the Super Bowl or something, that are fumbling in the AFC Championship. That's where I can see that obviously be more of the problems there. But kudos to the Vikings. This is a really fun team, I think. I don't think that many people expected them to be kind of having the run that they are right now, but they're playing with a lot of swagger, a lot of fun. Justin Jefferson, offensive MVP candidate for sure. So,
yeah, and like if you honestly think about the NFC, like think about the best teams in the NFC and like who their quarterback is at this point. Like I think a guy like a Kirk Cousins, like if he was going up in an elite team with Tom Brady at the helm or Aaron Rodgers at the helm of like a dominating Packers team, like that'd be a little bit more imposing. But like if you're getting into the playoffs and like Jalen Hurts is part of the best team, in your conference, or you're going up a kind of a fledgling Buccaneers team, who I think is kind of back on the upswing, but like has had a fledgling season with Brady, who's like 45 years old, and you look out west, it's Geno Smith. It's like get to the you just kind of look around. Like Dak Prescott hasn't always been the most consistent quarterback. Daniel Jones has kind of like been the laughing stock of the league for years past. It's kind of like this could be a year where like if everything clicks right, like Minnesota could find their way in the Super Bowl, and it wouldn't be like completely mind blowing. So I still love the roster around the Eagles as far as like who is the most stacked team in the NFC. I think there's that case for Dallas, and we've talked about the Bucks and even the Niners is kind of like a dark horse, but like it's time to take, Minnesota more seriously for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I guess moving on to, some other takes. I definitely did want to talk about the 49ers who you just mentioned there. They just beat the Chargers, who they've definitely been beaten up, but hey, a win's a win. So moves up to the 49ers 5-4. Have played really well since they got Christian McCaffrey. And that offense definitely has flowed a little bit better. Some trick plays here and there, but I think that was kind of expected from the 49ers just to be a better overall team because of this. So the Chargers, they kind of did hold Christian McCaffrey to 38 yards on 14 carries, so not too much production, but they made the 49ers offense, like they try to have other players beat them, and they did to a certain extent, but they didn't score too many points. So, and I think that's just kind of like the 49ers brand of football at the moment. Just make enough plays on the offensive side, don't screw up too much. Jimmy Garoppolo, no interceptions. That's kind of the way that they go, right? play solid defense, holding the Chargers to 16 points here. So there's a lot, I think, bright side. I think, for the 49ers, I know they usually do pretty well in the playoffs. So, if they can get there, great. I think, we'll see how they are the rest of the season, but it seems like they're kind of turning the corner to their season, and we'll see. But it seems like they're pushing forward to having either making the playoffs or making a good run there. So.
Yeah, I mean, this is a 49ers win. I mean, that defensive line was stifling. Like, Nick Bosa was just getting so many pressures, so many, hurries and sacks and such on defensive side. It's just like they play so fast. They're so aggressive. And then from, just the offensive perspective, it's like, if I'm Jimmy G, I'm just like, hey, I've got Debo, I've got CMC, I got George Kittle. When all those guys are on the field together, my job is just not F this up and just dink and dunk or, hand off or, make the smart read here or there. But this is one of those teams where it's just like they are going to be one of those dark horse teams that I think like just continues to kind of rise up. I like what the Bucs are doing too. They're slowly starting to, string together some victories here. I mean, these are the kinds of teams. So it's like they just kind of hide in the trenches. And then like once we get to the playoffs, it's like they just kind of emerge and go on that little run. So we'll see where this one goes. Very exciting, at least in the NFC. And yeah, it's too bad about the Chargers. I think I saw a chart that actually showed the percentage of, injured starters as a team. And it's like the Chargers are the very top of that list in terms of like the amount of destruction that team has gone through. I mean, you could just keep on going. Offensive weapons, guys on the defensive side of the ball. It's like they've been absolutely, decimated at this point by injury. And it's like, it's kind of chalk this up as like, Herbert's having a great year. Eckler's always a stud. It's just like, however far they can take him, like, I'm not going to think too much about it as far as like the team goes. It's just really too bad. And hopefully, if this team can get healthy again, whether it's this year or next, it's like, I would just love to see them like reach their true potential as a team. Cause this just kind of sucks for the game of football, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, I think we spoke about it in the preseason. They're probably one of the most talented teams, like maybe like top 5, top 3, even talented teams in the NFL. And when all that talent's injured, then you kind of have average, mediocre type of talent then to back them up. So we can go throughout the entire roster that is just not playing right now, and we definitely see that impact. So it almost kind of is, I feel like how the Ravens were last year, where they just kind of hit those injuries a little bit later in the season, but also in the beginning. But yeah, this team has a lot of talent. Just all of them are hurt at the moment. So, but definitely see, I think, better things to come. I think, hopefully, I think for them next year. So, yeah,
most definitely.
Yeah. Do you have another take?
I don't know if I have many more takes to go, but I will say, watching the Bears drop one at home to the Lions. I mean, that's kind of like, it's like worst case scenario. I feel like every year, that's like a W, like in the books, like no matter for the best team in the league or the worst team in the league, like you're beating Detroit at home. And, I like watching this progression of Justin Fields, especially over the last 4 weeks. Like his fantasy production is off the charts. Like I think he is the top player like overall over the last 4 weeks or so. But, I'm just loving his confidence. I'm loving the swagger he's bringing. He had that one, goal line play where he kind of dusted off, I think it was maybe Aiden Hutchinson, and then just seriously lowered the shoulder and just like knocked their safety back. It was like in for the score. I was just like, that's just kind of like, I didn't see that in him. Like the speed, yes, but like just that like aggressiveness and confidence. Like I love watching that kind of grow within him. And, Chase Claypool's been like completely absent in the box scores over the last couple of games, him being a Bear, but it's like, that's kind of where he's going to be, I think, for at least the rest of this season. It's like they're not really like a deep ball type team. I mean, I feel like just let Justin Fields like do his thing, like in his own unique way, like let him be his own guy, let him like kind of let him learn what it is that makes him successful in this game. And then however those surrounding pieces can support that, like it'll be to his benefit. So it's like, I almost look at him as like, you got to treat him like Lamar Jackson. You got to bolster that offensive line. maybe get him some good blocking, dual threat tight ends. Maybe it's just a guy who's just running slant routes, X routes, little like, hooks and stuff, like, kind of more of a short pass type receiver with some speed. It's like maybe a guy like a Claypool is like looking more for the deep ball or whatever else, like just technically doesn't really fit, but we'll see. I mean, at least, we got to the end of the year with Claypool to make like a bigger contract decision, but yeah, I mean, overall, I like where this was going, but to see him come up short against the Lions, I was completely disappointed because I thought they'd take care of business easily.
Yeah, no, I in a way, I felt like this was the perfect loss for them in that, hey, they made a lot of great strides, but then, they'll cough up a lead at the end there because, hey, the Bears don't have a defense, really. They don't have playmakers on the defensive side of the ball at the moment, at least in the front seven, really, to make that impact. So, but I do like what I'm seeing from Justin Fields. I really do. And I'm looking forward. Like, I've been doing like mock drafts every single day just to see. So the one good thing about this loss, against the Lions, albeit, was that they moved up in the draft rankings. I think they were like, I think they're like 9th or something like that. Now they're 6th overall. So, hey, which, in an NFL draft, that can mean a lot. So, and I think 2 weeks ago they were like 14th or something like that too. So, moving up there, but then at the same time, we're seeing Justin Fields and all that he can do. I think it's nice to see. I think they're basically just having Justin Fields just having fun out there, playing his, utilizing his skill set, obviously utilizing his legs, because it's interesting. I think I was looking at some stats of like how he really didn't run like over 500 yards ever when he was with Ohio State, but now he's like almost 800 yards, I think, rushing so far for the Bears. Projected to be like, get almost like 1,300 yards or something. So it's kind of astonishing to see like how he's utilized in this offense, but I think there's just kind of really shows like there's a lot of room to grow. Yeah, they've been scoring 30 points the past 3 some-odd games. So he has one of the best passer ratings, I think, in the entire NFL. So it's really exciting to see. So I think, maybe draft a wide receiver, but depending on how far they move up, it's either wide receiver or defensive playmaker I'm feeling so on the draft. But I think going forth, if you're a Bears fan, this coming off season, I think will be instrumental. I think going forward, Justin Fields' future and kind of building off that, just because $100+ million in salary cap, and all the draft capital in the world now. So I think it's just a lot of excitement. So hey, bring on the losses as long as you keep on scoring, 30 some odd points. That's totally fine. And Justin Fields remains healthy. I think that's all I'm kind of looking for at this moment.
Yeah, definitely. Totally looking forward to this offseason with this other, loss. I feel like we're now kind of starting to play ourselves into like the lottery seeding and stuff for sure. And you made a good point about losing some defensive playmakers, because when you're down, Robert Quinn and Roquan Smith, I mean, those are, 2 core, anchor pieces for that D. And now it's like got a pretty young secondary and stuff. So a lot of guys are probably learning on the fly as they go here. So we're going to probably go through some tough times. I think I saw the schedule and there's like 2 or so, I think, winnable games out of the set that we have. So maybe we end up with like a 5-12 type of record. But we'll just have to see. I mean, we'll see how this team, finishes up here for the year. But in general, I am looking forward to what's ahead for the Bears. So hopefully they, can bounce back in 2023 and onward.
Yeah, for sure. And with all that, I'm looking at food, since I know we always like to talk about food at the end of, which is funny because we shoot at night, so it's like I'm like, all right, I'll salivate after this probably, and go to bed like hungry, which is never a good thing. But Thanksgiving is right around the corner. Pat, would love to hear, what are your favorite Thanksgiving dishes?
It's a good question, Wayne. I've actually said this to a few friends, but I'm not a real Thanksgiving guy. This is very un-American of me, but I feel like there's so many other meals in this world that I would just much rather have. And anytime I've ever said that to people, I've gotten looks. I got in disagreement, but it, just it kind of is depends on who's the cook, obviously, who the cooks are, and it depends on like how elevated they make that food. Because to me, like just the mix of options is like very heavy, very kind of blandish type, meals that, perhaps we could eat, 50 years from now, and they didn't probably change all that much over time. So it's like, I know this is real sensitive, but I will say I'll give a shout out to one thing that I really always like to see on my plate, and that is stuffing with sausage added to the stuffing. So like if somebody can like buy some kind of like in the sense of like a ground sausage patty or something like that, and it's kind of mixed in with the stovetop stuffing, it's seriously the best thing ever. And I can eat like half a plate of just that and then some turkey, and I'm like, I'm good.
Do you need gravy on your turkey as well? Is that a given, or how do you?
Yeah. No, I like turkey, like, gravy on the turkey and stuff like that. I mean, I'm so accustomed to eating turkey, just like almost on a daily basis with sandwiches or just like straight up, or, I like to season it with Italian seasoning and oils and things like that, just to kind of like bring out its natural flavor, just give it like a little bit more pop. But like, no, I'm definitely down with gravy. I'm throwing it on the potatoes. It's going on the stuffing. It's hitting the turkey. I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of hate for this, like a lot of dislikes and, bad comments and stuff. But like, that's kind of my take on Thanksgiving. But Wayne, I'm going to kick that back to you. I want to know like your favorite sides, or like what you think of the whole holiday, the eating and all that good stuff.
Yeah. Well, my favorite cuisine or dish, I should say, it's probably going to be like some good old ham, some like honeyed up ham, essentially. So I think the best one's like from Virginia, if I'm not mistaken. So
oh yeah, man.
Yeah. Some good old country ham, I think. I love a good ham, kind of mix that with some mashed potatoes. I mean, the thing is like with turkey, I feel like with turkey, it definitely is a hit or miss. It definitely depends on who's making it. But yeah, with a good old ham, like there's just a lot of natural flavors that are already kind of prepared and baked in there. So yeah, with regards to turkey though, it's like, it has to be either basted a bunch, and I think that's where a lot of people just miss the mark, or just fry it, just fry a turkey and don't burn your entire house and village down. I think that's the key thing. So that's how I view turkey and eating overall. But I will say one of my other kind of oddball type of family meal or family dishes, though, desserts that more so are Jello squares. Actually, every Thanksgiving, me and my family, we usually have Jello squares from a dear family member called we call her Nanny. It's not her actual name; it's her kind of a nickname, because she's kind of like a nanny for all of us or whatever. So, but yeah, just guess picture this, 5'0" or maybe 4'11", Filipino woman or whatever, just making Jello squares. Like that's just love for us. So, definitely enjoy that, like from a sentimental level. So, to the point that, some cousins that I grew up with, a lot of people have moved all across the country. But they will ask for those Jello squares specifically made by Nanny, essentially. So
are these Jello squares like just traditional Jello, or does she do something to like kind of dial it up?
I don't think so. I think they're pretty traditional. I think I think what she does is that she mixes like I think there's like a grape flavor and like that cherry flavor. I think she mixes it. I think is kind of her recipe. So mixes it a little bit, so kind of gives multiple flavors there. But so I think that's like the key thing there. But yeah, I think the other ingredient that was just good old fashioned love, and I think that's where people want it from all across the country. So
yeah. The thing about Thanksgiving is kind of funny too. It's like I think I touched on like things I like, but then there's just like so many things I don't like that I just see around the table and stuff. I'm just like trying not to be rude to like this acquaintances, family members, or whatever. It's like you don't see very often. It's like, no, I don't want to like an extra scoop of sweet potatoes with burnt marshmallows on them, or I don't want the green bean casserole with like the French onion soup and like chips on top or whatever else, or it's just kind of like I look around and sometimes there's like Jell-O with like whipped cream on top. It's like real goofy and shit. I'm just like, I go across the table and I'm just, these are all the standards, I'm pointing out all these standards, and I'm just like, if I take a scoop, it's like I barely flick any onto my plate, and then I'm just like, it's basically all turkey, all stuffing, and then I'm just one plate and done. And it's very un-American, but in the same sense, I'm just like, yeah, I don't know, man. It just doesn't speak to me as much as other things do. Or holidays.
The green bean casserole. That's so funny you mentioned that, because it's like, I feel like I went to a Friendsgiving potluck, and there were like 3 or 4 different kinds of green bean casserole. Some had like a mixture of bacon in them, and some had I guess like butternut squash, like all. But it's like, can we do better? Like, why can we have 4 different kinds of like, I don't know, deep dish pizza or steaks or something like that? Like, what? Who in the right mind is like, oh, I'm thinking of having an awesome meal, let me make green bean casserole. Like, I feel like that it just needs to be elevated a little bit more on there. So, I feel like, if this is going to be an American holiday, like, let's upgrade our palates a little bit more. Let's try some other things,
No, that's part of my problem. It's like a lot of these tastes are like brought from like the 1950s. You're like sitting there and you're like, yeah, like thanks for the canned cranberry that you just opened up and you got for 10 cents at like, it had a dent in it at Jewel. So you got like a 10-cent cranberry can that you're serving us. And it's like, have we not, adapted over time with culture and with spices and flavors? It's like, I almost wish like I could go to another like culture's family Thanksgiving, just so they'd throw different food on the plate and I'd be like, oh great, like we've got a Filipino feast here, like I can dig into whatever it could be, lumpia, or just different mixes of food and things of that nature. It's just like instead we're kind of stuck with these like TV dinners blown up and then served on a platter for us all to eat for 5 or 6 hours.
Yeah. Well, why is it that the standard American Thanksgiving has basically been regulated to, a somewhat elevated Boston market, right? Like,
complete shit.
Yeah. So I don't know what it is, but regardless, I'm looking forward to it. I don't know exactly what I'm going to be eating, but yeah, very much always looking to just taking some time off and relaxing. So yeah.
No doubt. I guess with food, I just wanted to flag that Domino's is really, really looking at our pocketbooks this holiday season and saying, world, you guys have been treated like trash over these last couple of years, I would say, but like definitely, from summer on, and we're going to give you 50% off all your orders from a couple days ago through November 20th, which is I believe it's this Sunday. In any case, go out, order some pizza, order some cheesy bread, some wings, subs, pastas, whatever your thing is. 50% off. Doesn't come around too often these days, especially when bags of chips are now like $5.50, and if you want to buy 8 seltzers, it's like $30 now. So like, just get out there, take advantage of this good deal if you're hungry, if you're hosting a party or what have you, and thank Domino's for their generosity this holiday season.
I thank you for mentioning that, but I just bought some frozen pizza that I plan on eating actually. So, but that sounds like a great deal. I'll probably take advantage of it this weekend. You can never have too many pizza, I feel like. So, yeah.
Yeah, and if anything, just like put in an online order, gift it to a friend, just like some cheese bread just shows up at their front steps, like they'll thank you later. So just pour money into Domino's. They're clearly, trying to grab market share or improve their stock performance in some way. And, they'll screw us later on down the road. But like, hey, this week, go screw Domino's.
Yeah, Domino's is a very interesting company. If you want to look at their stock, I think somebody did analysis of them and like the FANG stocks, like Microsoft's and like the Facebooks and Google's and all that. they outperform those guys. Like they're better than them. It's pretty crazy. Like pizza is just, they're a very interesting company. I think their CEO said like, yeah, we're actually more of a logistics company that serves pizza. So
yeah. No,
yeah.
I'm with you, man. I've heard that, like, we're a tech company or whatever. It's like you're
Yeah.
not lying, because like your app is like spot on. They got like the whole experience from end to end, and it's they're definitely far ahead of their competitors in that sense, and probably still are today. But yeah, that whole revamp after the viral videos of the employee playing with pizza somewhere, like that definitely helped them for sure.
Yeah. I think them and like Chipotle and like Starbucks have like the best apps, I think, for those businesses. So, and yeah, their stocks obviously have done pretty well, in more recent years, I guess. So, yeah, it's a digital age. So, but yeah, I'll definitely be ordering Domino's, I think, this week. So.
Sounds good. Well, maybe we can recap in our next convening on how we took advantage of this crazy deal. And, if we're not shooting before Thanksgiving, then we'll also recap on that and see how we're both doing after the holiday, whether we gained, a couple pounds or, a couple inches on the waistband. So we'll figure all that out. If we don't catch you before the holidays, I'll wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving, whether you love the food or you don't. Get together with people you care about and they care about you, and have a good time.
Yeah. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Take care. Yeah. Be kind to one another. And yeah, just wish each and every one of you all, a good weekend going forward. So.
Cool. All right. Well, with that, that's Wayne Pua. I'm Patrick Miller signing off for the Ball and Breakfast podcast.